Hello and welcome to Criminal Justice in a Nutshell. My name is John Fisher, and this week's topic is on police and racism. There's been a lot going on this week in America and violence, and there was police killings in Louisiana and Minnesota, and a disgruntled veteran attacked the police, and in his negotiations with police he stated that he just wanted to kill white people. He wanted to kill white cops, and he wanted to kill cops because of the cops targeting African American or black individuals within this country. I'm going to pull a page from Newt Gingrich, and I'm going to tell you that I have absolutely no idea what it's like to be a black man growing up in America. I'm not black. Granted, on the other side, I think that a lot of the black community watches TV, and they watch Gossip Girl, and they watch The OC, and they watch Revenge, and they watch all of these shows about white privilege, and they think that applies to every single person, every single white person in the country. Okay. It doesn't. And the white people in this country are struggling just as much, I think. But do we have cops targeting us? Yes. Of the 491 people that have been killed so far this year in 2016, it's July 10th, 491. Less than half of those, 138 of them were African American. There was about a 65 or so are Hispanic, and the rest are white. Police are shooting a lot of people. We are bringing up and we're focusing on the fact that the police are shooting the African American population. And in proportion to the population, yes, there is a disproportionate amount of African Americans being shot and killed by cops than any other race in this country. I remember a few years ago, one of my daughters they were a victim of a violent crime, and I went to the police department, I went to the police station, and I said, hey, what's going on with this investigation? And I tried to talk to the cop that was involved and who was in charge of the investigation, and I asked when he would be at work so I could come talk to him, and blah blah blah. The chief of police came out, and he said that it was none of my business when a particular police officer is working, and that the schedules for police officers is classified information. I have absolutely no right to know about it. And I started to protest. Those of you that know me, I have an education in criminal justice, and his response was unique, I think. Probably not, but it affected me, so I took it personally. And his response, and I quote, "If you don't like the way I run the police station, get your Jew ass out of my town." 3 days later, I was arrested for telephone terrorism by that same cop. Everything got washed away, everything got dismissed, expunged. It's not on my record or anything. But discrimination and hatred is something that's real in this country. And when it's perpetrated by the police, it has a even more devastating effect. And I find that we as people, as individuals, whether we're white or black or brown or green or orange or red or yellow or blue or whatever color we are, it's important that we understand that we don't know what life is like for that other person. My lawyer told me, he goes, John, how in the world, why in the world would you come to West Texas as a Jew? Okay, I was not raised Jewish, I was not born Jewish. I choose to be Jewish. I choose to follow the tenets of Judaism. And I don't hide the fact. And my lawyer goes, you're a Jew. You're not supposed to be living south of Interstate 20 or west of I-35. Now that's a scary world where the thought of being Jewish is not welcome in some part. I had an African-American friend of mine tell me, goes, yeah, but John, you don't understand. You're white. I go, but I'm Jewish. He goes, you can hide that you're Jewish. I can't hide that I'm black. Okay. I can tuck in my tzitzit. I can stop being Jewish or stop showing. I can hide the fact that I'm Jewish. An African American or a Hispanic person cannot hide it. So what does all of this have to do with policing? I've heard Michael Eric Dyson from Georgetown University on Meet the Press this morning talking about how his sole focus, his sole purpose in life was to bring about a knowledge about life as a black man in this country. Something that I will never, ever be able to understand. But just because I'll never be able to understand what it's like to be a black man in this country does not mean that I am a racist or a bigot or a sexist or any of those other things that I've been called over the last 8 years because I didn't vote for Barack Obama. Okay. We are America, and this tree out the window behind me, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a huge tree. It's a big oak tree, and some of the branches are dead and dying. Some of the branches are flourishing and they're growing, and there's new branches. It seems like this tree is a healthy tree, but in the middle of this tree there's dead branches and there's dead limbs, and this tree is rotting from the inside out. And I think that is what America is. There are some parts of America who are receiving the benefits of this country and have fought hard for the resources that are available so that they can be advanced in this country. And then there's other parts of it that just aren't getting it done. They're not doing the things necessary. And they're dying and they're rotting. I'm going to have to go up there this winter and cut that death and that rot out of the tree, or else the entire country is going to, or the entire tree is going to die. And America's the same way. Okay, there's a lot. I know that just sounded wrong all of a sudden. But there's racism in this country, and there's hatred in this country, and there's division in this country, and that is killing the tree. Okay. Although there are aspects and there's parts of this country that are flourishing, there's a lot of it that's not, and it's dying, and that rot has to be cut out. Okay. And yeah, I know. How does that have to deal with criminal justice today? Well, it has to do with criminal justice today because in Meet the Press, I kept hearing Dyson and Michael and all of these guys there talking about how we need to move forward. Hillary Clinton has been talking about how we need to move forward, especially in our relationships between the police and the citizens. They're wrong. We don't need to move forward. We need to move backwards. We need to move back to 1829. In 1829, and if you've been a student of mine, as many of you know, I am the program director for the Criminal Justice Department at Howard College. Whether or not it remains that way will be seen. But at this moment, I am the director of the Criminal Justice Department at Howard College, and I have been teaching police systems and practices and intro to criminal justice and in criminal justice for 10 years. 1 year at Sul Ross State University, 10 years at Howard College. I have been teaching criminal justice. And one of the things that I keep talking about is Sir Robert Peel. Sir Robert Peel established the first professional police department in 1829 in London, and he gave 9 principles. And we could go through all those 9 principles, and if you look for my video titled History of Policing, I'm going to give you all 9 of those. But I'm not going to give you those 9 things today because it's pointless. It means absolutely nothing. But the one thing that encompasses all 9 principles is that the people are the police and the police are the people. And what Robert Peel told us was that if the society and the community did not trust the police, there would be mayhem. I have been predicting this week in my classes for 10 years. You know, my students who watch this, they can comment below. And they can tell you that I have been talking about this for a long time, that we need to establish and implement community-oriented policing in our society. Because without community-oriented policing, we're going to have an us versus them attitude. We're going to have anarchy run the streets because there is one police officer, on the average, there's one police officer for every 1,000 citizens in the community. The police department is just a show. I'll say that again. The police department is a facade of control. If the people in this country decided that we were not going to follow the law anymore and that we were not going to be part of this society, the police department has absolutely no way to fight against it. Okay, as we saw this week, one man with one rifle and one handgun was able to shoot 12 people, killing 5. And yes, they keep mentioning how he shot some of them in the back. Well, he was just shooting people. He didn't care. He didn't care about the rule of law. He didn't care about due process. He wanted vengeance. And he took it. As police officers, as criminal justice professionals, as the leaders of this nation, as the face of government, we need to remember that we are only as effective as our relationship with the community. If the community does not trust us and the community hates us because we wear blue, because we're cops, because we're probation officers, because we're parole officers, because we're correctional officers, if they hate us because we are criminal justice professionals, we are not going to be able to control the environment. We're not going to be able to do our jobs. Okay, as police officers and as a teacher of criminal justice professionals, one of the things that I teach is that you go home at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what happens during the day, as long as you get to go home at the end of the day. Any day that you go home alive to hug your wife and your children is a successful day, and you've had a good day as a cop. So I train my students to be able to diffuse a situation without having to pull their gun, without having to resort to deadly force. We spend a lot of time on the mat. We spend a lot of time with fighting. We spend a lot of time with hand-to-hand combat and pressure point control techniques, so that police officers can control the suspect without having to shoot and kill them. Okay, we need to be able to increase trust. You can't increase trust unless you're listening. I know, I'm starting to sound like Hillary Clinton. But this isn't a race issue. I don't think it's a race issue. I think it is a society issue. There are just as many poor white people. There are more, by the numbers, there are more white people shot and killed by cops than African Americans or Hispanics. And one of my students shared a meme that said, do you know why Hispanics don't protest when a Hispanic is shot and killed by the police? And underneath the meme it said, because the Vato probably deserved it. And the same with the white population. We don't get up in arms and start protesting when a white guy or a girl gets shot and killed by the cops, because we automatically assume they deserve to get shot by the cops. They did something to cause it, and to cause the effect, to cause the violence in themselves. We're not seeing that with the African American community. All we're seeing is that African Americans are getting shot and killed by cops. Is it the media? I don't know. It doesn't, but it doesn't. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we, as criminal justice professionals, we have to listen to the community, whether they're white, black, brown, green, orange, red, white, blue, whatever. Okay. As criminal justice professionals, we have to listen to the community. We have to talk to the community. We have to reestablish the relationship that we as police officers have with the public. If we do not reestablish the relationship that we as police officers have with the public, this violence that we have seen this week, this attack that we've seen in Dallas, and then there was another one on Friday, it is just going to get worse. It is going to continue to get worse until we are in a civil war. Okay, there's been a lot of talk about civil war coming out of the Black Lives Matters movement, coming out of the Klan, the White Aryan Resistance, Alex Jones, the Black Hebrew Israelites, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on about this civil war coming to this nation. I heard a comparison of this summer, this year, to the summers of the 1960s. Okay. I see it. I see the 1960s, or what I've seen on TV of the 1960s, compared to today. What we need to do, and my buddy Kelvin put it best, and Kelvin said, we need to talk. We need to just not stop talking, because we've been talking. Clinton, the first, Bill Clinton, was talking about talking back in the 90s. Okay. Because we have a race issue in this country. We have a problem in this country. Is there institutional racism? Yes. Is it as bad as it was in the 50s? I don't know. Ask a black man who has to deal with being a black man. I can tuck in my tzitzit. I can shave. I can hide the fact that I'm Jewish because I'm 6 foot tall, white, light hair, kind of sometimes. Well, now it's turning gray, but I can hide the fact that I'm Jewish. Kelvin can't hide the fact that he's black. Nobody can. Okay, so we have to have a discussion, not just have a discussion. We have to start acting upon our principles. And when we start acting upon our principles against hatred, against division, once we start talking, listening, and doing, we will find ourselves in a world where racism doesn't matter anymore. I've been researching hate for over 8 years, and I have a academia page. I have an article page at waldenu.academia.edu. I'll link it down. I'll link it below. Where I've got several articles about ending hate, about social justice, about all of those things, and about making a difference in the world. Hate and division is more than just the color of our skin. Hate and division is about haves and have-nots. Hate and division is about not wanting others to take or to get or to receive what we have. It's about fighting to keep what we got and blaming others for trying to take them. You know, the immigration issue, the wall in Mexico. We don't want the Mexicans coming up here and taking what we've got. We don't want the blacks coming out of the inner city and taking what we've got. Or it's the other way. That says, that guy over there has this and I want it and I deserve it and I need it, and if you don't give it to me, I'm going to take it. We have this entitlement mentality in this country, and this country's hurting. This country needs a relationship with the Almighty God. I could turn around and I say, if everybody just followed Torah, like the Jews, like the Orthodox Jews, life would be better for everybody. But the Muslim guy in Detroit and Dearborn can say, if everybody followed Sharia law, it would just be fine. Why don't we just try following the law of America? If we follow the law in the United States, we won't have these problems. I'm legally allowed to carry a firearm, but I don't, because I'm afraid I'm going to get shot. Okay. The fear of getting shot by the police is not a racial issue. I can legally carry, but I never do. Never carry my firearm. It stays in my house. It stays locked up in my gun closet. Because if I take it out here into the world, some cop might shoot me. It's a real threat and a real fear, especially because of my stance on community-oriented policing. Cops don't like it when you say you have to have community-oriented policing. The common response is, well, you're not a cop. You just have no idea what it's like to be a cop. Well, guess what? When the cops tell you to get your Jew ass out of town and then arrest you when you don't leave, there's a problem with the police. And we need a community-oriented police department that is like the Statue of Justice, is blind. Blind to color, blind to religion, blind to all of those things. We are all Americans first. We're like that tree outside the window. We're rotting because of our hatred. We're rotting because of our division. We're rotting because of race. We're rotting because of hate. And things aren't going to get better until we stop judging people by the color of their skin. We stop judging people by the God that they worship. We stop judging people by which country they come from. We are all Americans. All of us are Americans. And we need to understand that. Are some of us criminals? Yes. Do some of us deserve to get shot? Yes. But there is a necessity and there is a need for due process. There's a reason why Sir Robert Peel did not arm his police officers with guns. Because it's an easy way to exact force over your suspect. I don't know of a single police department in this country that's going to turn around and unarm or disarm their police department, and it would be foolish to do so. But police officers have to remember that that firearm that's attached to their hip is a weapon of last resort. When there's no other issue, you can't just pull a gun and put it in somebody's face because they're resisting you. Okay, you use a pressure point control technique. You use an arm bar. You take them down. You imply there's a nerve right here in the thumb, right there, and you can press that and it will cause pain. And if you take that thumb and you twist it, it will cause compliance. The result is compliance. You notice just by twisting this, my thumb in my hand has already turned red. It stopped the blood flow into my hand. Okay. And it hurts. And why I'm still doing this, I have absolutely no idea. But pressure point control techniques is something that will help the police officers gain control of a situation. Okay. Learning martial arts, learning Krav Maga is another way to ensure that you don't need to use a weapon to shoot and kill somebody. Okay. Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid Part 2, and he's trying to teach young Danielson the best way to avoid getting shot or stabbed by a suspect is to not be there. Okay. You don't be there. Okay, you move out of the way. You change your angle so that they cannot attack you. Okay, there's a lot of ways and a lot of things that we can do without having to resort to shooting and killing people. Okay, studies show that the reason why excessive use of force is used by police officers is one of two reasons. The first is fear. The second is a lack of training. Our officers need to train and train and train. If we train, we're not going to be afraid. But granted, we have guys like this guy in Dallas. I want to target police officers. I want to kill cops. You've got the Black Lives Matter movement screaming at the top of their lungs. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. This is going to create an attitude of fear. It's going to create an attitude of resistance on the part of the police department. Okay, there's a lot of blame to go around all over the place. Cops are wrong. The Black Lives Movement matters wrong. The suspects are wrong. Okay, there are so many things that the guy in Minneapolis or in Minnesota could have done differently that would have prevented him from getting shot and killed. Especially now we know that the police thought that he was a suspect in an armed robbery. Okay, officer, my hands are here. Okay, I have a gun here. Okay, my license and my concealed carry permit is also in my back pocket on this side. With this hand, I'm going to reach over and I'm going to get my gun, and then and I'm going to give it to you, and you pick it up and you take it out of the holster with 2 fingers and you set it down. You don't just, you're going to get shot. If a cop doesn't know what you're doing, he's in fear. He knows that you have a gun. He knows he thinks that you have already wielded that gun in an armed robbery. He's going to be in a height. His adrenaline's going to be pumped, and he's going to be afraid. And if you make any quick, fast actions, he's going to shoot you. And he's going to shoot you dead. He's not going to care what color your skin is. He's not going to care what religion you are. He's not going to care if you're licensed to carry that gun or not. If he knows that you have a gun and you make any fast movements towards that gun, he's gonna shoot you. That's the way that he was trained. But we have to implement community-oriented policing. In conclusion, we have to implement community-oriented policing. As cops, we have to understand that the citizens don't trust us. As citizens, we have to understand that the cops don't trust us. Without community-oriented policing, all we're going to get is an increased civil war. Without community-oriented policing, all we're going to get is a increase in violence. All we're going to get is a civil war. We need to listen to our brothers and sisters in this country. And our brothers and sisters are of all skin colors. Okay. We need to listen to our fellow Americans. As cops, we need to listen. As citizens, we need to listen to the cops. We also need to respect the cops, and we need to help the cops, because if we're not helping the cops subdue crime and eliminate crime in our community, what good are we? What use are we? Community-oriented policing goes both ways, because the people are the police and the police are the people. And without a relationship between the police and the people, we have anarchy. Completely. Totally. And we have civil war. And we have a police department who is vastly outnumbered by the citizenry, who are trying to maintain order. I don't know what it's like to grow up and to be a black man in this country. But I do know that I'm not the privileged elite that we see on TV. I don't know what it's like to be a Hispanic man in this country. But I know what it's like to work and struggle and fight for everything that I have. This is John Fisher, Criminal Justice in a Nutshell. I hope you have a very, very good day.